Small. Wow, tiny.
You are currently listening to Tiny Table,
where we explore TTRPGs you might not have heard of.
Whether big or small, we hope to cover them all.
Because we know that great things can come in tiny packages.
Welcome, witches. This is Skylar, and the following episode is our rules rundown for Black Mass. If you feel like your divinatory reading of the rules has already provided you with an occult understanding of this game's systems, then feel free to fly your broom down to the actual play episodes. However, if it's your first time, you need a refresher, or you simply find yourself enchanted by the incantations of our local witch Holly, then find a cozy spot out in the woods, light a few candles and/or incense, and we'll give you all you need to know.
Black Mass will send you searching for freedom in the haunted woods of Salem. This tarot-based, shared character story game will appeal to fans of The Witch, The Crucible, and Bluebeard's Bride. The year is 1692. Salem, a young town on old soil, seethes with righteous fury. Within the year, more than 200 residents will be accused of witchcraft. Within the year, at least 25 of the accused will be dead. Catherine, a servant from Topsfield, and Lydia, a child of Salem, refuse this hangman's tally. Together, they flee into the woods beyond Salem. The woods are dark, full of twisting realities and ominous portents. But, with the devil they know hot on their heels, Catherine and Lydia will seek the devil they don't. As their journey culminates, a great black mass will unfold, rewriting their history and reshaping their future. So come, commit thyself to grand and uncertain fate, cast the bones, read the tea leaves, and draw a spread of 3 cards. In the face of persecution, ask yourself, wouldst thou like to live deliciously? What you'll need. Black Mass is a game for 4 to 9 players, one of whom will play the game as the proctor. We recommend all players read the rules of play for ease of learning, though the distinct 3-act structure and simple resolution rules also allow experienced players to verbally teach each respective part before it begins. When reading the rules, the essential sections for learning how to play are the introduction on page 4, the how to play through building the spread sections on pages 5 to 12, the wood sections on pages 25 to 29, and the Black Mass and Persona sections on page 30. The remaining pages contain the catalogs of reference content for the game, as well as the proctor-only sections at the rear of the book. A game of Black Mass will last around 2 to 3 hours on average, spanning across 3 acts: the prologue, the woods, and the Black Mass. The amount of players at the table will directly affect the length of the prologue, as each player will answer 2 questions over the course of this opening section. There will be a brief break between the prologue and the woods for the proctor to prepare the game content, and the latter woods and Black Mass sections are more free-form in their length. All of these acts are further defined by the seasons of play, of which the group selects one of the 3 options at the top of the game. October heralds flying broomsticks, witchy vibes, and a PG-13 rating. December brings down-to-earth eeriness and historical fidelity, keeping itself more PG. February hits hard with bloody R-rated horror, leaving viscera in the snow. To play Black Mass, you'll need a copy of the game, the Persona sheets, a standard 78-card tarot deck, 2 tokens, and space on the table for 2 long rows of cards to gradually fill. Black Mass can be purchased as a PDF at willjobst.itch.io/black-mass or physically at goodluckpress.co/products/black-mass. You might be able to find it at your local game store if they're very cool. The Persona sheets and a general action reference sheet can both be downloaded for free on Will's itch.io page. Regardless of how you get the game, you can find the Black Mass Suite, a collection of 6 looping ambient tracks on black-mass.bandcamp.com. You'll hear these songs composed by Will's brother, Jack Jobst, throughout our 3 episodes of actual play. Before we continue, a brief content warning. Black Mass centers on the Salem witch trials of 1692, and as such, is deeply tied to themes of femicide, persecution, misogyny, racism, and Puritan abuse. Regardless of season, Catherine's and Lydia's fates are intertwined by the death of someone they both knew, and they flee Salem to avoid the grisly fate facing the women of their town. The particular content of the game will depend on your season of play, as previously mentioned. The game encourages the use of the X card to mediate play around these sensitive topics and depictions. We also recommend a conversation up front about which elements your table does and doesn't want to explore. In our own play, we include depictions of hypnosis, a child drowning, a woman burned at a stake, animal gore, scarification, facial disfigurement, dismemberment, and death, including death of children. Preparation. A game of Black Mass requires practically no preparation before the play begins. The game's core scenario with Catherine and Lydia fleeing into the woods is always the same. The differences between any 2 table stories come from the choices made during the game, particularly in the prologue. The only choice the table makes before play begins is the season, for which there are 3 options: October, December, and February. Take some time before the game begins to talk as a table and decide which season feels right for the story you want to explore. Your choice of season will affect which questions you answer for each persona, as well as the larger questions that tie Lydia's and Catherine's fates together. For more detail on the flavor of each season, as well as advice on making your own, read page 45. Once the season is selected, all that remains for the players is to each select their respective Catherine and Lydia personas. Especially for a first playthrough, we recommend going into your persona selection with as little information as possible. The evocative personas list on pages 8 and 9 give 1-sentence pitches for each option, which is just enough to pique your interest and motivate an exciting, mysterious choice. Take a moment to ensure nobody has selected the same personas as each other, and you're ready to delve into the prologue. The more significant preparation for the proctor occurs after the prologue concludes. The prologue itself is neatly structured by the gamebook, with questions arrayed for each persona in each season. The answers to these questions generated over the first hour of play will give the proctor the content they need to populate the woods. In between parts 1 and 2, take a break from the table to prepare the characters, creatures, and locations that await Lydia and Catherine in Salem's dark forest. The game recommends preparing 3 or 4 set pieces for the duo to encounter during their flight through the woods. For large tables, we recommend expanding this number to ensure every player has a chance to play with each of their personas at least once. 3 or 4 set pieces is a good minimum for an average table size of 3 to 4. As an overall framework, you'll want a location Catherine and Lydia need to get to, a creature or character chasing them, and some interstitial locations between them and their goal. If you need further inspiration, turn to The Devil's Town on page 50, which provides a wealth of additional scenery and action prompts based on the personas and season of play. If you got some juicy symbolism from the prologue, a few disturbing set pieces, and a fitting final destination, you're ready to run a game of Black Mass. Modes of play. A game of Black Mass plays out across 3 parts: the prologue, the woods, and the Black Mass. Once the table has selected the season of play and each character has selected their Catherine and Lydia personas, the proctor will shuffle the tarot deck. Place 2 tokens at the center of the table, one for Lydia and one for Catherine. Decide on a first player. They will introduce their Catherine persona, reading aloud their description from page 8. The proctor then asks the player a question for that persona, based on the season of play. The list of Catherine questions begin on page 13, while the Lydia questions begin on page 17. The player draws a tarot card, then answers the question, establishing some element of Catherine's past. Players can feel free to take the tarot card's art or divinatory meaning as inspiration if the whim strikes them. Once the question is answered, the player lays their tarot card somewhere to the left of the Catherine token. This begins the construction of the spread, an array of tarot cards on the table representing the timeline of our story. The Lydia and Catherine tokens represent their present moment. Cards to their left represent elements of their past, which are laid out in the prologue. In due time, the Black Mass will place cards to their right, representing their unbounded future. From there, play proceeds around the table, with the next player introducing and answering the question for their Lydia persona. Continue around, alternating which persona is presented, until each player has answered one question and laid a card onto the spread. Here, at the halfway point, the proctor places a card face down between the Catherine and Lydia lines on the spread. They then ask the first season question, found on page 22, and flip the card face up. This season question will determine how Lydia and Catherine met. Each player contributes to the answer, and can feel free to move the card up or down the timeline to fit how the answer evolves. Have these ladies known each other their whole lives? Have they only met recently? This question is the player's first opportunity to actively collaborate on the themes and direction of the narrative. Once all players have contributed to the answer, pick up where you left off in the player order and proceed around the table once again as before. By the end of this second go-around, each player will have answered a dramatic, haunting, or exciting question about each of their personas, and will have laid 2 tarot cards on the spread of the past. The prologue concludes with the proctor asking the second season question, found on page 23, in the same manner as the first. This second question determines the last thing that happened to them before they entered the woods. Once every player has contributed to the answer, the prologue comes to a close. Now they're off into the woods. Part 2. The Woods begins after the proctor has taken a brief break to prepare what lies within. The Woods begins with the proctor describing Catherine and Lydia's initial flight through the woods, zooming out until some threat arises that necessitates player intervention. When a player wants to take control, they declare that they want to inhabit either Lydia or Catherine, taking the corresponding token from the spread center to demonstrate their control. They then draw 3 cards and place them face down in front of them. This pile of cards is called the cairn. So long as a player has cards in the cairn, they may maintain control of the character, with their persona as the guiding force of that character's actions. A player in control of Catherine or Lydia may further the story through various actions. The 3 general actions, struggle, keen, and rogue, are universally available. Struggle is use of one's body, keen is use of one's mind, and rogue is use of the night. Beyond these, each persona has 2 unique actions that only they can access. You can find the full details of the general actions on page 27, along with your unique actions on your persona sheet. Action resolution in the woods is handled as follows. First, describe which action you're using, then flip the top card of your cairn face up. If it is any suited card from the tarot deck, the action succeeds and you choose one of the 3 available benefits for that action. Each action also has a matching suit. If you draw the matching suit, you instead choose 2 benefits. The matching suits are swords for struggle, cups for keen, wands for rogue, and pentacles for unique persona actions. You may also choose to discard additional cards face up, gaining an additional benefit for each card discarded. If, instead of a suited card, you draw a major arcana card, something's gone wrong, and things get worse. The proctor takes control of the narrative, complicating the journey. A list of possible inspirations for these dark twists of fate can be found on page 46. A player's control of Catherine or Lydia continues until they choose to exit character, or they run out of cards in their cairn. When exiting character, a player with cards remaining in their cairn may discard a card face down to end their influence on their terms, forwarding the narrative one last time before they cede control. If a player does not do this, the proctor introduces a complication to the end of this control, as if drawing a major arcana. A player may also choose to play a card from their cairn onto the spread to fulfill one of their persona's black mass requirements. These are goals unique to each persona, the fulfillment of which draws the inevitable black mass ever closer. Part 3. The Black Mass shall arrive when the time is right, when Part 2 has come to a satisfying conclusion, such as Catherine and Lydia reaching the Devil's Town or discovering a grim revelation. The Black Mass begins. Run the Wouldst section for as long as befits your group's desire for pacing and playtime. The only hard rule is this: if every persona fulfills all their Black Mass requirements, or if the tarot deck is depleted, the Black Mass must begin. For a briefer game, try to ensure each persona has fulfilled at least one of their requirements. The Black Mass is a grand, final, time-unraveling ritual that rewrites the past, releases the present, and realizes the future. Take the discard pile of cards played over the course of Part 2 and make equal piles for each player. Then, each player will read their Black Mass statement, a compound phrase at the bottom of their persona sheets that unifies the missions of their Catherine and Lydia personas. Players then take turns laying cards onto the spread, narrating how Catherine's and Lydia's rituals reshape reality. Cards placed on the right side of the spread represent their magically foretold future, while cards laid onto the already populated left side can redefine their past. Continue in sequence, taking inspiration from the Black Mass personas on your persona sheet. This final act is ritualistic, cosmic, poetic, and apocalyptic. Go big, because you can't go home. When all players are satisfied with their Black Mass, the game comes to a close. Legal. Black Mass is written, owned, and copyrighted by Will Jobst, with the design by Shannon McLean, editing by Colleen Riley, illustrations by Kate Lissette, and photography by Kara Kokonos. All rights reserved. Music for the Black Mass Suite is composed and performed by Jack Jobst. This podcast is based on the following game content created and owned by Will Jobst, Black Mass 2019, available at willjobst.itch.io. Tiny Table is an independent production by Tiny Table LLC. With that, you're ready to play. See you for the ritual, witches. Hi, and thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then we'd really appreciate if you left us a review. If you really like what we do here and want to support us further, you can join us at patreon.com/tinytablepodcast. Our business email is also open for inquiries at tinytablebusiness@gmail.com, and all of our socials can be found in the episode description for any shenanigans you might want to follow. Till next time, see ya!